My name is Salote Mafileo Bilolevu Tuita. I am the only daughter of His Majesty King Taufa'ahau Tupou IV in the Kingdom of Tonga in the South Pacific. Tonga has the distinction of being the only Polynesian nation that has remained intact since its earliest days. It was never colonized or occupied by a foreign power. As Tongans, we are proud of our heritage, of our king, whose royal lineage goes back 1,000 years. We are proud of our language and culture, of the peace and stability of our country. We are grateful for our Christianity and for the customs and attitudes that bind us together as a people. Even before the coming of Christianity in 1826, there were basic values and virtues constantly reinforced in Tongan society. Virtues such as anga ofa, a loving nature, anga whakaapa-apa, reverence and respect, tauhi waha'a, or keeping up good relations with one's fellow countrymen, mamahi I mea, zeal and team spirit toward any worthy cause, and lototo, a ready and willing mind. These virtues are still considered characteristically Tongan and reinforced by many rituals and performances, important to our society even today. The spokesmen for these performances and rituals are the Taufa'ahau, or ministers within the church, the Matapule, or talking chief, who conducts the Kava ceremony or speaks to the people on ceremonial occasions in the name of the king. Even the Punake, poet, musician, or choreographer, will praise these virtues in his compositions. In fact, most of the grand artistic performances are much more than just entertainment. They are cultural reinforcements of the basic values of the Tongan society: love and respect for God, King, and country. This particular presentation features the ritual or the ceremony of the Kava, which comes down to us from time immemorial. Kava is important ceremonially to most Polynesian peoples. It has special significance to Tongans because it symbolizes the fealty, the solidarity, and the commitment of Tongans to their country. In July of 1998, two important Kava ceremonies were held in connection with the 80th birthday of my father, His Majesty Taufa'ahau Tupou IV. I invite you to learn about these ceremonies and their history, for they both reflect our culture and teach our culture.
The Royal Kava ceremony, with its meticulous observances, is a microcosm of the Tongan society, showing the social order and status of the clans, or ha'a, and reaffirming the attitude of Tongans' loyalty to each other and the king. The ceremony is executed with stylized pageantry and reverence.
Rituals, to me, are social theater. They have a moral or morals lesson to teach people about that society. And Kava ceremony is the centerpiece of our culture and our rituals system.
In Tongan mythology, the Kava plant has a miraculous origin. It appeared because of the sacrifice and love of a very poor couple for their king, the Tuitonga. According to one legend, this couple lived alone on the island of Eweki with their little daughter named Kava, whom they cherished, but who was afflicted with leprosy. One day, unexpectedly, the king and his fishermen came to the island for rest and refreshment. Hearing of the king's arrival, Kava's father, Fevanga, anxiously began to prepare the underground oven to bake an offering for the king. Kava's mother Fefafa rushed to their garden to harvest the last bit of food they had, a fu'ukape, or giant taro. To her horror, Fefafa discovered the king himself resting under the leaves of the kape plant. Unable to approach the king, who was considered by the people to be divine, Fefafa returned sorrowing to her husband. The couple's deep sense of duty left them no choice. Since a food offering had to be made, they decided to offer up their daughter as a sacrifice. Thus, Kava was put in the underground oven as an offering for their king. When the king heard of this manifestation of ultimate devotion, he immediately left the island before the oven could be uncovered. So it became poor Kava's grave, tenderly cared for by Fevanga and Fefafa. Not many days after, two strange new plants appeared, one at the head and one at the foot of the burial mound. One was sweet to the taste, and the root of the other was bitter. When the high chief Lo'au heard this tragic story from the grief-stricken parents of Kava, he told them to bring the strange new plants as an offering to the king, Tatu'itonga in Lapaha. The plant with the bitter root would henceforth be called Kava, after the cherished daughter. The other would be called To, or sugarcane. The couple made the presentation to the king as an emblem of their sacrifice. Hence, the drink made from the root of the kava became the ceremonial drink of Tonga. No one is quite certain exactly when the kava first began to be used in ritual fashion, but many cultural experts have theories.
I tend to believe that the kava was originally employed as part of the ancient religion, but then it was socialized to keep order in society. But the myth of the kava seems to point to healing religious practices. It seems to me that human sacrifice was fairly common in ancient times, perhaps in Tonga or in other parts of Polynesia, and the kava was developed to crowd it out. Yeah, it has become the great metaphor of our society, the kava.
Kava has come to symbolize all of the basic Tongan values combined in one: the land, the people, their customs, their culture, everything Tongans hold dear.
So kava is there at every important occasion: the bush, the roots, the liquid, but particularly the ceremonial tradition has been maintained. And what's very important about that ceremonial tradition is the way the social order is marked out. If you sit in a circle for what's called the Taufa'ahau Kava, the noble kava ceremony, you know your place. And in Tonga, everybody knows their place. And in a way, these ceremonies are symbolic of the way the whole society is organised, from the king, representing the ancient sacred chief, down to the father as head of the household.
Each person's place in the kava circle is extremely significant. Why? Because the hierarchy within the kava ceremony is all-inclusive. That is, every person in the kingdom is represented by one or more of the nobles and chiefs within their clans. The king sits directly opposite the tānoa or kava bowl and the kava mixer or taukava. On either side of the king or tu'ikanokupolo are two principal matapule or talking chiefs, Motuapuaka and Lawaki. The space behind the tānoa is the toua, where the people gather. The line of chiefs making up either side of the circle is called the alofi. Here sit the paramount chiefs or nobles and their attendant chiefs or kaumatapule. When they participate in a ceremony presided over by the king, a number of very high-ranking nobles in the kingdom may take their places in the toa, such as Vaea, Kalaniuvalu, Tupou toa, and Ulukalala. The toa will then be referred to as toa eiki, or the chiefly toa. It was fitting, therefore, that a Royal Kava ceremony should be held during His Majesty's 80th birthday celebration. Although all such ceremonies celebrate the king, this particular ceremony was also a traditional installation ceremony for a young nobleman, the Honourable Fialakepa. He is presently governor of the Ha'apai group of islands. The preparation for Fialakepa's installation ceremony, or pongi, actually began many days earlier when Fialakepa and his relatives gathered a massive tribute for the king in the form of food, kava, livestock, and elegant Tongan crafts. Puhi Tamata'apule, or chiefly attendant, is in charge of this enormous array of gifts. He will also be one of the orators during the ceremony, representing the king. Fialakepa belongs to the Ha'ahavea clan, made up of 7 influential paramount chiefs on Tongatapu.
Yes, today is the traditional installation of the Ha'ahavea title, Fialakepa. And I think with these installations, it's the traditional confirmation of a title, a noble title here in Tonga, where most of the chiefs of the Ha'a and other chiefs as well, and relatives bring tributes and tributary materials to the king, especially pigs, fine mats, and ngatu. It is a very important day because one cannot, according to some authorities, participate in the King's Kava ceremony until one has a bongi or send tributes to the king for the noble title which has been conferred.
Fialakepa's pongi, or ritual tribute to His Majesty, will include dozens of 400-pound pigs, scores of giant yams or ufi, hundreds of baskets of food, and of course, many huge cover plants mounted on vaka or sleds. All the large pigs will be presented on their backs, with their mouths and feet wrapped tightly with banana leaves and fibers. This has special significance.
Kono hai koe ngudumulo wae, no ke whamahino ai, no ke he tau koe velata, e hanga Tupou lama ko toa tongan. Ko whamahino e ko whaka toa tongan ka Tupou. Ko mea ko hai ai koe uwa e pe moe, ngutu poka whake, na kei te hataha te are mo Tupou he taimea ni whai e tau i o tongan. Ko foi me mau ngai ko ke hoko ko no foke boka no hai ko mo malu ia ko fo mai no ia na tau u du ko do ka tu bo ngai tau ko ko mo an fale mai ko me ko hai be u boka ka do.
As the grounds fill with royal gifts and people, the spirit is light-hearted and joyful. These young women will bear the cups of kava to the chiefs of the kava circle. Only children of ranking chiefs have this honor. For many, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The official counters, who will count each gift in the ceremony, await their time-honored duty. The chiefs arrive and the circle begins to form. The principal role in the ceremony will be played by the king's highest-ranking matapule motuapuaka. He will guide each step within the ceremony, from the initial whakawhetai or formal acceptance of the gifts to the preparation and distribution of the kava, to the final order that the ceremony is concluded. His partner, Lawaki, performs on the king's left. As preparations are completed at the palace grounds, Fialakepa is at home, being dressed by the women of his clan in a massive ta'avala or waist mat. In everyday life, the waist mat is an emblem of respect. No one is fully dressed without it. The origin of the ta'avala is not clear. One legend links it to sailors from Ha'apai, paying homage to the ancient divine king Taufa'ahau. When their clothes were in tatters after a difficult voyage, they wrapped themselves about with pieces of the sail of their canoe and humbly presented themselves before the king. Since then, the ta'avala has been the universal symbol of respect for all Tongans.
Tongans are the only Polynesians who wear the waist mat. It expresses their identity, their dignity. It embodies the classic virtues, whakapa'apa, respect, tauhiwaha'a, keeping up relations, and mamahi'i mea, patriotic zeal. People of all ranks wear it, including royalty.
Like kava, the ta'avala has deep meaning, reflecting the pride and solidarity of the Tongan people. Also, like kava, it is frequently referred to as the whanua, or land. The word whanua has powerful connotations for Tongans.
As a foreigner first learning the language, and even before I received my chiefly title, I was touched by the meaning of the word whanua in the minds and hearts of the people. For example, I remember years ago, I believe it was in the village of Te'ekiu, walking by an open lot where there were several elderly men seated in a kava circle. There was a bowl with the kava in it, and opposite the highest-ranking person in the group. When I greeted them, one of them said, "Koe maunofo pe'enia o puke puke whanua." We're just sitting here tightly holding on to the land. That is the land in the composite sense, represented by the kava. Another time I remember encountering a village elder very early in the morning. He had a rather large ta'avala on, called a kuta, suggesting that he was a mata'apure. After our greetings, I asked him why he was wearing a ta'avala so early in the morning. And he said, when I get up in the morning, I bind the land around me. Again, this is a very powerful expression of these two very significant symbols for Tongan identity. The kava on the one hand and the ta'avala on the other.
Of course, Fialakepa's is a ritual ta'avala. In fact, it is 3 separate ta'avala. Waist mats such as these are considered priceless, not just because of what they symbolize, but because often they are passed down from cherished ancestors. Once he is dressed and ready, Fialakepa leads a large procession to the palace grounds. He is flanked by Lasike and other nobles and matapule of the Ha'avea. The size of the procession shows the strength of the clan.
The Ha'avea chiefs are very influential here in Tongatapu. They have a history of rebellion against authority, but now they're very much part of the establishment with the Prime Minister, the Honourable Baron Maya, and a lot of the chiefs in government, like the Bygone.
The joy of the occasion is shown by a typical Tongan mawhana, or wild enthusiasm. Seated in their traditional places, the Ha'angata clan has for centuries been responsible for the ritual presentation of gifts and for kava mixing. They take immense pride in these duties. Fialakepa takes his place with fellow Ha'ahavea chiefs. When His Majesty arrives at the head of the circle, Lawaki and Motu'apuaka begin the ceremony with loud, stylized expressions of gratitude. The king presides in the doorway. Whakawhetai is the honorific word for thank you. Motu'apuaka orders the royal counters to formally acknowledge each gift. In much the same way that the words of the ritual take on a poetic quality, many of the exaggerated movements of the counters take on a dance quality. Each food gift must be accounted for individually and in groups of 10, and summarized at the end by the artful Tu'ungafasi Maka. Fialakepa's auntie, Mrs. Kaifonua Tupou, then presents elegant mats and tapa, the work of many loving hands. Once the gift presentation is accomplished, Motu'apuaka then commands that the kava be prepared. An appropriate kava plant is selected. The branches are snapped off and the root split into 3 sections for cleaning and pounding. The elaborate, stylized method of splitting the kava is accomplished by whakauho from the village of Kolovai. Even more than the counters, Whakauho brings the grace, balance, and movements of Tongan dance to his task. Once the careful shaving and cleaning of the kava is completed, root chunks are taken to the Taufa'ahau, Seluse Fesi, the king's kava mixer from the Ha'angata clan. In former years, instead of being pounded with a rock, the green kava was chewed by appointed persons, often chiefs of lesser rank, and occasionally by women. The kava sufficiently pounded, the kava bowl is brought in and the bits of pounded root are put into it. When the bits of kava are arranged in the bowl, Selu lifts one side of the bowl for Matuapuaka to see and shouts. The mixing then begins in earnest. This process is called tamilolua. Once the strainer is applied to the bowl to strain the bits of kava out, the orations begin.
Tupou. Tupou para Vernice. Tupou para Tupou. Tupou Maria Pomo para Faha. Tupou para Loihau. Tupou para Loihau. Tupou para Tuitanga. Via Loihau. Tupou Alfina. Tap mo tawai kina. Katawai tawai panai. Kamai
These movements with the strainer are called whakamui whanua. Uhi from the Fale Ha'akili clan speaks on behalf of the king. Mafua I whangauta, Whiela Kepa Senior Matapule, responds for Whiela Kepa. With the kava ready for serving, the next step is to provide a food gift for each person in the circle. This is called fono. One's fono is a piece of pork cut and distributed around the circle. In this ritual, a representative comes from outside the circle to claim the fono for each chief in the ceremony.
According to custom, no Tongan ranks high enough to accept the king's portion. It must be accepted by some non-Tongan of status. Many people were surprised when Masima Sefesi, respected district officer of the Western District, was asked to enter the circle as the representative of the foreign dignitary to claim the king's fono. I was sure there was going to be controversy, a talanga, a challenge from the chiefs whose job it is to protect the protocol of the ceremony. But it was surprising to me that there was no controversy whatsoever.
But there was controversy over what to do with the ngāue, or the multitude of gifts, before serving the kava. Traditionally, all gifts must be removed from the circle on the order of Lawaki. But in recent investiture ceremonies, because of the difficulties of removing thousands of pounds of ritual gifts, they had been allowed to remain. The Honorable Vahai argues with Motuapuaka that attempting to remove the gifts would compromise the dignity of the occasion and of the king himself. Motuapuaka fires back that the traditional protocol requires their removal.
Ka koe ne tu'utu'uni. Heka ke te whawhipaki awi hata. Koe ne whawhipaki mai te whewhekatu awi. Hau kai ko awi o ko whai atu e tu'utu'uni. Koe ne whola o ko whai atu ake. Pea koe te whenga mai koe tamu ho igno pere. Koe ke o koulawe i pe awi ho nau tu'unga i olunga i te au. Kai ke lawa ho nau tu'unga ke nau esi ai ho whatongia ako. E ulaki tonu ho whatongia aku ke hau. Kau toki tonu au ka nau tonu. Te toki whare reo na toki tu. Ko pau ke alua te mea whewheka tahaya. Whilawe i mo tu'utunu o mai ka te hau.
Thus, the entire massive array of gifts is removed. The king's kava is called as the voice of the caller sings out, The king's cover bearer is the Honourable Lavinia Whangaake Hoamofaleono Ma'afu, daughter of the leading noble of the Ha'ahavea clan. Next, Lawaki's kava is called. Now Fielakepa's kava is called. The server is Rosaline Furifuatonga Kaho, the eldest daughter of Tu'ivakano, a prominent Ha'ahavea noble. Motuapuaka tells the Tau'a to adjourn and invites Fielakepa to greet the king. Thus concludes another performance of a traditional ceremony. A new young nobleman is now duly initiated, and Tongan loyalty to king and country has been reinforced. As with other rituals and legends, the kava ceremony of the Tu'ikanokupolu is enshrined in a traditional communal dance called Laka Laka, performed by the people of the Ha'angata clan. During the king's birthday celebration, another important kava ceremony was formed. This ceremony was held in honor of His Majesty's oldest granddaughter, the Honorable Salote Lupepau'u Salamasina Tuita, who recently turned 21 and graduated with a bachelor's degree.
Because most of these kava ceremonies are especially reserved for the nobility when they are inaugurated, when they receive their title for the first time. But I think this kava ceremony signifies a job well done in reaching the age of 21 and completing her bachelor's degree as well, and hoping that she would again renew the sense of belonging, the sense of clan and family and community togetherness.
Although the gifts presented here are not as extensive as those offered in a title installation ceremony, they are nevertheless stunning. After the mats and tapa are presented, they are taken outside the circle by the women. The King's Matapule Awheaki from Ha'apai will conduct the ceremony. When all is in order, Lupepau'u arrives with her aunties and cousins as escorts. The Honorable Lupepau'u settles on the lap of her whaehuki, or symbolic mother, Nasitasia Veikune. Awheaki leads the formal acceptance of the gifts. Samiu To'oa performs the counting duties. Each pig is a toho, or the largest possible size. Awheaki orders a kava root pounded. The first orator is Tupou To'as Matapule Valu, representing both the king and Lupepau'u's mother, Her Royal Highness Salote Pilolevu. The speech from Lupepau'u's father's side is given eloquently by Lutui. Traditionally, the ritual of the carving of the pig must be accomplished without breaking or cutting through a bone. The whānau are claimed by relatives of the chiefs. Elizabeth Wood Ellam, longtime friend of the royal family, claims the whānau for the king. The time has come for Lupepau'u to receive her first kava. Luciani Luani will bear the kava cup to her. Awhiaki gives Lupepau'u her charge.
It was very emotional for me, especially when I was presented with the kava and Awhiaki started making that speech on my obligations from then on for the country, for my king, for my family and people. For me personally, I think drinking the kava or drinking the land, to say, was ensuring your obligations to the land and its people.
Finally, Ahio announces that the kava is at an end. The ceremony is adjourned and Lupepau'u is escorted away. The winds of change continue to blow relentlessly throughout the Pacific. Tonga faces growing social and economic difficulties, such as the issue of land distribution, the struggle to develop new agricultural industries, the invasion of technology, the pressure of foreign involvement, and even the controversy over the long-established monarchical system of government. But there is still a deep sense of Tongan identity, a belief that clinging to the legacy of the past as embedded in the rituals and ceremonies of the culture will help Tonga steer a safe, peaceful course into the 21st century.
We Tongans believe that God still looks after us and that we do not need a greater power on earth to look after us. We feel safe that this has been done by George Tupou I, and he believed that by offering Tonga to God, its people, its plants, its animals, its land, its sea, the entire country, God would look after us.
Today, that motto, Koi o tua mo Tonga ko hoku towhia, informs every aspect of Tongan society.
I think the Tongan heritage is it's very valuable and it's very important to know it and maintain contact with it. Because it's the Tongan heritage that makes them Tongan.